Hey, welcome back everybody. My name is Junior and you're watching my channel, The Amused Jester. So we're going back to the 1966 Batman McFarlane Custom, and I'm addressing the fact that I've decided to sculpt the boots shape. I finally found my milli putty. I already started in this one, so I'm just going to show you what I did in this side as well, but that's basically what it's going to look. It's still kind of rough, as you can see, but everything else I can just sand down. Yeah, that's the boot's going to be. So this is already pre-mixed, very simple custom. So if you guys are doing this, it shouldn't be too hard to copy. Basically, I just rolled it out. This is already starting to dry out, and then I cut a line, and I can still see that it's still pretty thick, because I'm also trying to match the thinness of the existing sculpture over there. I've decided not to do the folds of the boots, because that would mean the fold would have to be here, which would mean I would have to thicken it up, and I didn't want to do that. And I don't really mind that there's a cut here, because obviously the articulation has to be there. I think that's still kind of thick. I just need to thin that out. I'm sorry if some of my shots will be out of frame, but I'm mostly looking at the piece. So I just line it up. I want to make sure I have the right height compared to the other one. I'm beginning to use the new wet palette that I was gonna use for my paint, because this is starting to dry out and starting to stiffen. This is just so I can work on the surface. So it's not quite high enough. Okay, sorry I cut out in some parts of it. So this is almost done. I'm just dipping my fingers a little bit to smooth out the surface. And then once this dries out, I'm gonna sand it to make it a little bit more smoother. Make it blend a little bit more where I connected it. Can maybe lift this a little bit more to give it a little bit more thickness. Alright, so now it's had the chance to dry. I'm going to do a little bit of sanding. And then I am going to prime it probably tomorrow because it's already 9 o'clock. I'm waiting for the his tank to finalize the video. Oh sh. I have sanded down the boots that I sculpted in, and I've primed it with gray, which is almost matching the gray that I want, but I want to lighten it up. You guys might remember I had an issue with the belt, and this thing sitting kind of higher than I wanted. Then I realized I can still keep on pushing it down, and I like that portion much better. Unfortunately, it was exposing the problem I was having initially with this figure, meaning that the torso, or the abdomen part of the torso, is slightly too small for the belt. But I can live with it because if I'm watching it on the shelf, it's mostly going to be like this. So even though it's a little bit, it might still be a little bit showing that the belt's too loose. It's still better than the proportions issues that I was having, wherein the thigh seemed too long and this was slightly too short. So let me deal with the paint right now. One quick update, as I was talking about my wet palette over here, it worked very, very well. Last time I used it was maybe 3 or 4 days ago, and the paint that I'd left in there that was drying at the time, when I closed it, I opened it up again, was actually wetter than when I had left it. So the water just basically kept on being absorbed by the sponge, being absorbed by the parchment paper. This is parchment paper, by the way. It's basically a container with some water, a sponge, and parchment paper. It kept on absorbing the water, and it kept on basically keeping the paint moisturized, so it actually became more active, more wetter than it had been when I left it, when it was drying out. Because I put on some paint that I never used, and it was beginning to dry out, and it actually got more wetter. So anyway, so the paint issues I'm having with the Batman, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to copy exactly this, because I'm working with different kind of paints. So we'll see what happens. I'm using Vallejo paint. I'm gonna use first a flat blue, and then kind of mix it with purple, darken it a little bit with black, and then put highlights on using a azure blue. So we'll see what happens. A little bit. And looking for my glasses. Yeah. Interesting, it's very, very close to the color of the cape. I apologize that in some of my videos I might go out of the camera view, but unfortunately when I'm concentrating on the painting, I tend to forget about you guys on the camera. I'm glad that's on camera. Just really light coats of paint, and then if I'm seeing some streaks, I'll go over this again anyway. This is basically the basic paint that I'm putting on. On one of my videos, somebody had asked me a question. I answered it on the video, but I'll answer it again here. So he put on a coat of Tamiya spray, and then so he painted it, and then he put on a Tamiya spray. From what I'm seeing, he let it dry one day, and then on top of that he put on a Vallejo varnish, and then he said even though it's been 36 hours since he put on the varnish, it was still tacky, and he was asking what he can do to fix it. So my answer is, because I've had that problem before. For one thing, the Vallejo, I said first wait another 2 days to see if the Vallejo will still cure, because technically it needs 72 hours to properly cure. If that doesn't help, you can do like a hair dryer, a warm, on just warm setting to accelerate the drying time of the Vallejo. But if after 72 hours it was still tacky, what probably happened was that the varnish is reacting to something underneath. It could be the Tamiya. And that's why it's not properly drying. But I just don't think there's any way to recover from that, because basically the paint is reacting to something underneath. You can't put anything on top of it because it's still tacky. So, you know, it's just not gonna dry. So, I mean, it's kind of like a sad learning experience, but that's one of the things why you really want to when you're doing painting, you want to first clean the surface of what you're painting and then prime it. The primer will tell you if the surface is properly prepped, because you know the primer alone will start to react if there's anything to react to. Then of course, once the primer dries and seals, it basically seals that surface and prepares it for the paint on top. Since the Tamiya dried after one day of waiting, and he never clarified whether he primed it and cleaned it, I'm suspecting the lacquer, the Vallejo lacquer, reacted with the Tamiya spray that he used. What do you guys think? So as you guys saw, there's no way I was going to be matching the colors exactly. I got it close enough, and then I somewhat cheated by washing a little bit of the color that I was using on the existing costume, so that basically tied in the whole thing. It wasn't a complete repainting of the older paint, but it also dulled down the sheenness that the old one was having. So I think that ties it in. And also, one of the issues I was having with this one is because the texture that they have here, you can see all the wrinkles and everything, and it's obviously not in the boots. So I needed to make sure that the paint is the one that would tie it all in together. So that's it for this guy. I just need to do some touch-ups, and then I'll repaint certain things. Alright, this guy is almost done. I just need to repair this part over here. I gotta let the paint dry a little bit so I won't have any paint rubs or anything like that. And then I'll seal it with Mr. Hobby Super Clean Flat. I purchased this out of the recommendation of Les Walker. He's another YouTuber who does a lot of paint and all that stuff on his on everything he has, and it works out very well. Now he mentioned to me that this wasn't really paint, this is actually resin based. So what basically happens is once you paint this, it literally seals your paint underneath a resin material, which makes it more harder to have rub off and everything. So I want to try that and see what happens. I hope you guys learned a few things or anything helpful from what I did. If you guys notice, there are times when I was just putting on paint straight onto the figure without actually mixing up the proper colors and all that stuff. I wasn't really too worried because I know I could blend it in, all that stuff. Don't be afraid to make mistakes on when you're painting or any kind of work that you're doing. I think you'd be very, very surprised to learn that some of your best work can actually come out of your mistakes. So, you know, just put it on there. Eventually you'll be confident enough to know that, okay, it might be might not be working now, but I'll be able to fix it if I needed to. But let's go with it for now. So, yeah. So don't be afraid to just mess around with what you have. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. And you know, like I said, happy accidents is what we've been told when we think about those things. So yeah, I'll put on the coat and see if I want to work on some more. I think I might want to work on the face a little bit on the next video. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. The last video should be the finishing one, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.